Hello again, I'm Ben Austin, Operations Director at Tisski, and welcome to episode 5 of our GDPR Primer series. Now in this video we'll be looking at the responsibilities of organisations to manage personal data breaches and the potential penalties for not doing so effectively. And as always, links to the previous episodes in the series are in the description below. So, GDPR then defines a personal data breach as a breach in security leading to the accidental or unlawful destruction, loss, alteration, unauthorised disclosure of or access to personal data. So personal data breaches could include security incidents such as access by an unauthorised third party, sending personal data to the incorrect recipient, the loss or theft of devices containing personal data being altered without permission, or the loss of access to personal data. So for example, if it was encrypted by ransomware. Now, under GDPR, whenever a security incident takes place, data controllers have the responsibility to quickly establish whether a data breach has occurred and then assess the likelihood and severity of any risk to people's rights and freedoms. So where a data breach is identified, then depending on the potential impact of the breach, it may be necessary to notify the Information Commissioner's Office and affected individuals of what happened. Now, if it's likely that the breach will pose a risk to the rights and freedoms of individuals, for example in the case of a customer database being stolen, then the ICO should be informed as soon as possible and certainly within a maximum of 72 hours after discovering the breach. If there's little risk to individuals' rights and freedoms, then there isn't a requirement to notify. Now, this assessment is the responsibility of the data controller, so even when notification isn't required, it is still recommended that the decision and the reasons behind it are recorded in case you're later called on to justify that assessment. Now, when a data breach notification is made to the ICO, there are some key details that should be provided. Those include the nature of the breach, the categories and approximate number of individuals affected, the approximate number of personal data records affected, the name and contact details of your data protection officer or another key contact, the likely consequences of the breach, and the measures taken to deal with the breach and to mitigate any further impact. Now, if the data breach is assessed to pose a high risk to individuals, then as well as notifying the ICO, the affected individuals should also be notified so that they can take steps to protect themselves from the impact of the breach. Now, once again, this assessment is very much the responsibility of the data controller to make, and it should be documented along with its justification. So, individuals then should be provided with the following details. Again, the name and contact details of your data protection officer or another key contact, the likely consequences of the breach, and any measures that your organisation has taken to deal with the breach and mitigate, again, any further impact to the individual. Now, as well as understanding your responsibilities as a data controller, it's also worth being aware that the ICO has various corrective powers under GDPR, and they include the ability to fine organisations up to €10 million or 2% of global turnover for failing to notify of a data breach when required to do so. So it really is essential to have a robust system in place for identifying, recording and notifying any data breaches. Okay, so hopefully this episode has helped to clarify the requirements around managing data breaches. In our final episode of the series, we'll take a look at a solution for managing the key requirements that GDPR places on organisations. So until next time, remember to subscribe to the Tisski YouTube channel, and as always, thank you for watching.